Well, he was the undisputed king of Kung Fu who revolutionised martial arts films and became a pop culture icon. We're, of course, talking about Bruce Lee.
Kato! Everybody was Kung Fu fighting!
First, he was the Green Hornet's sidekick with a killer kick. Then he showed us he could pack a punch in Fists of Fury. Before meeting his match, the one and only Chuck Norris in Way of the Dragon. And now, 45 years after his untimely death, a new book is detailing the incredible life and career of Bruce Lee.
Cop that, Chuck. Look at this. Bang, bang, bang. Author Matthew Polly has penned the definitive biography. It's called Bruce Lee, A Life. We're thrilled to say he joins us live from Connecticut this morning. Matthew, you have spent a decade researching, writing this book on this man. Why did you decide to take this on?
Well, the first time I met Bruce Lee was when I watched Enter the Dragon as this skinny, bullied 12-year-old. And he jumped off the screen into my imagination. And so, like millions of others, I wanted to be like Bruce Lee. I went and bought a pair of nunchucks and cracked myself in the skull repeatedly with them. But despite that, I continued with the martial arts and continued studying, went to China, learned at the Shaolin Temple.
Wow.
And then after I became an author, I was I was shocked that Bruce Lee didn't have a proper biography written about him. So I felt like doing this project was my way of paying back the debt I owe him for making my life better.
Wow, incredible, Matthew. Now, we know Bruce, of course, as a martial arts legend, but he was also a ballroom dancing champion.
Yes. So the funny thing that people don't realize is that his two great loves as a teenager were Kung Fu and dancing. And whatever sort of hit new dance moves were hitting Hong Kong at the time, he would study. He was an expert at the jive, the Lindy Hop, even the boogie woogie. But his favorite was cha-cha dancing. Mm-hmm. And so he entered a contest, but very cleverly, rather than trying to pick between one of his many girlfriends, he chose his cute 10-year-old brother to be his dance partner. And so they won on cuteness alone. And so forever after, Bruce Lee would tell everyone his proudest achievement was being the cha-cha champion of Hong Kong.
Amazing.
Such a great story.
Yeah.
He first made a name for himself training Hollywood stars. So he was doing that, and then he met the chairman of the board, Frank Sinatra, and that changed everything for him. How did that happen?
Well, so the way this story came about was his first celebrity client was Vic Damone, who was friends with Sinatra and the rest of the Rat Pack. And then one day, he was talking with Vic to Sammy Davis Jr.'s bodyguard, and someone was walking behind Bruce that the bodyguard knew, and the bodyguard shot at his hand to say hello. And so Bruce thought it was an attack, mistook it for an attack, flipped the bodyguard around, stuck his fingers in the guy's throat, and had to be pulled off of him. So afterwards, Vic Damone told all of his friends, and Bruce became the most famous Kung Fu master in Hollywood because this legendary story grew that he had beaten up Sinatra and several of Sinatra's bodyguards. And it was fascinating to me to to see how he was a legend in his own time.
Exactly. I mean, he was very close with Steve McQueen as well. Matthew, is it true that Steve took Bruce Lee on a joyride to teach him a lesson?
That's right. So Steve McQueen was Bruce's top celebrity client. Steve wanted to be as good a fighter as Bruce Lee, and Bruce Lee wanted to be as big a star as Steve McQueen. And so one day he called up Steve and said, "I'm going to get a Porsche just like yours." The difference was that McQueen was a world-class driver, and Bruce, by all accounts, was a menace behind the wheel. People were terrified to drive with him. And so Steve was afraid for his life if he got a car this good. So he decided to scare him straight. He said, "Bruce, I'll take you on a drive." They got in his Porsche. They're on Mulholland Drive, which is this windy road in top of the mountains in LA. And he's veering left and right, sliding, doing 180s. And finally he stops, he looks over and he says, "Bruce, what do you think?" And Bruce wasn't in the chair. He was ducked in the wheel of the car, shaking. So Bruce pops out and he says, "Steve, I'm going to kill you." So Steve doesn't know what to do, so Steve starts driving as fast as he can, saying, "Bruce, don't hurt me." And Bruce says, "Stop the car." And he says, "You won't hurt me, will you?" Finally, they stop the car. Bruce jumps out and goes, "McQueen, I will never drive with you again."
So that and so many more great stories,
Yes.
Matthew, in this book. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. Bruce Lee Alive is out July 1st. Go and get it.
Thank you, Matthew.